getting our signed poster.
We have a sign, the large format poster for you, Dennis. Yeah.
Thank you, Dennis.
For you.
For you.
If anyone has any questions about the Leary estate and where it's going, talk to her.
Watch the movie again.
And you're the moderator, Mr. Green. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm not your moderator.
Well, before we throw this open to the audience, I just want to ask Gay, you had mentioned in the press that your first impression of Timothy was not the greatest. And I just wanted to find out, you happened to catch Timothy during the tour he did with Jay Gordon Liddy.
I didn't get that one. That was
Okay.
good though.
Can you tell us about that first impression? And
Well, you know, I wasn't born until 1965, so sorry, I'm just a little gone. So I saw him in the 80s when I was in college. First time I heard his name though was my brother getting in trouble because he had just gone 2 hours to the school night to hear him after he'd gotten out of prison. I thought, who is this Timothy Leary and why is my brother risking all this? But later I found out why he risked all that. Yeah, the first time I saw him, I saw The Showman, or The Showman, about Tim. On his deathbed, I saw the human and the beauty and the vulnerability and the intelligence and wit, and I got to see him through the lens of Ram Dass's eyes, which you see in here, which is love. And I think we all need to be seen through the lens of love because our culture tends to chew us up and spit us out, and it felt like Tim really got scapegoated. And all I knew was this media personality that had been handed to me, and so this 19-year journey for me became very personal, somewhat autobiographical. Other long question, but you know, it was reconciling this caricature my culture handed me with this beautiful man, and the relationship was always my main focus because you know life happens in relationship, and these two had a very dynamic, powerful effect on each other and then on all of us, and we're still feeling those effects, so bless them both. And I never set out to do a puff piece at all. You know, it was like, and I don't think I did, because these guys got glorified and demonized. It's like, let's just have these conversations, and they're really wonderful people to help us have the conversations, you know.
now, early in the film, Ram Dass speaks to a definite level of animosity between the two. And I was wondering if anyone here would care to clarify
I
that.
think give it to RU. RU could probably be good at that one.
Well, obviously there was a split when Ram Dass went off to India and became involved in the whole guru enlightenment death thing. At the same time, Leary actually went to India. He saw gurus. He saw paragurus. He saw a Buddhist in India who he really admired and sort of wanted to throw himself at his feet and dive into all that. And the guy told him that, no, your place isn't here. You should go back to what you were doing as a psychiatrist, charting human behaviors, charting different aspects of the human consciousness, and you should apply that to your psychedelic experiences. And aside from this incredible biography, that's what he did. He charted, brain circuits, different levels of consciousness, how they related to technologies, how they related to history, how they related to art. So in a way, he was thrown back to the West by the East. They said, this person said, no, you're meant to do this other thing. And Tim, he could be impatient with things that he thought were bullshit. He didn't like people throwing themselves at the feet of gurus. He didn't like it.
Unless it was him.
Yeah, he liked that a little bit, but he liked it less. He liked it a lot in the 60s, I think, and then he liked it less after having some.
Somebody gave him this T-shirt, I think in 1983, 94, so right around that era, and it was just a T-shirt that just said, "I am a guru." And he was one of the few people around who could kind of get away with wearing that, just stepping on it at the same time.
I have one thing. There's a wonderful new book out on all Leary's early academic writings that James Penner just wrote and compiled. And it's really important to read this because you see the seriousness, and that he was taking a U-turn in psychology before he even found these substances, and another reason why he was threatening. And these medicines just amplified what he was doing anyway in his theories.
The biography, I mean, you can't begin to capture the biography in an hour and a half or 2 hours, or it take 1,000 months, 1,000 years to really capture the complexity and just I mean the social and political knots that he got himself into and created to sort of unravel all that stuff and to let people know what was really going on and how that related to his theories. So I do want to recommend, I have a very small short book called Timothy Leary's Trip Through Time, which you can find online, which tries to unravel some of his personal biographical history and how it related to his philosophical developments and also things that were happening in culture and counterculture during his life.
At this point, I think we're going to just throw it out to you guys. We're going to take a couple questions, maybe three at a time.
Yeah.
And let these guys feel them as they feel appropriate. So, anyone curious? Anyone got a question? Right here.
That interview was recorded in 1996. Why is it taken 20 years?
Oh my gosh, I'm busy.
Let me just repeat that question. The interview was done in 1996. Why did it take 20 years?
Oh my God, that's not very good question. First of all, it was a very spontaneous thing. That's the way we started, was very spontaneous. And then it obviously turned into a life journey. I was very young when I started this project. And I would say I set it down for years also. And then it kept haunting me, this original material from the dialogue and then these interviews I did with them, single interviews. And then Ramdas had his stroke, so he was recovering. I was also launching some environmental businesses as well and doing other things. And this material kept haunting me. And I have a longer answer for that, but I won't go too far into it. But I really went into a deep meditation after I got kicked out of my position in government doing environmental management, because we passed the most comprehensive greenhouse gas regs in the country, and the new governor didn't like me very much. So I was a known environmentalist.
What year was that?
That was the end of 2010. Anyway, so I thank her because it gave me the opportunity to go back to my filmmaking and say, hey, there's something here, because if we don't find ourselves in this natural cycle, which is called life and death, where nature lives, then we're not going to handle these bigger questions. So I thought a lot about the personal to the political, and I felt like there was something really seminal in this relationship and the conversation. So I kept picking it back up and marinating on it, digesting it, and growing up myself too. And I also realized that I did try to hand it off or do it earlier, and it just wasn't working. So I think it's a better film because it took so long, because now I have this arc of Ramdas too that I didn't have before. And the zeitgeist of the culture, I think, is more interested in the subjects now. So, every time I try to fight the universe, it tells me what to do. So
The footage you collected
19
is
years,
amazing.
It just took that long. It's kind of crazy. It seemed like yesterday.
Yeah, in doing that too, the film developed a different character. I mean, had just the initial interview, the 1995 interview, had been filmed and put out, it would have been a very interesting capsule of time and wonderful dialogue between these two wits and brains. But in order to bring context to it, it really takes time. I mean, people like Joanna Harcourt Smith came in later and brought in the whole period of Leary's dark times in jail and all of that.
And Andy Weil and Ramdas finally reconciled after many, many years.
Yeah, there you go. So ultimately, the wait was worth it because we were able to come up with a fuller film, a longer arc, and a greater story, because you've got a wonderful buddy movie and a great American story here too. And there's a marvelous narrative going on. And I just love it.
And yes, there were moments where I thought it was absolutely insane.
first off want to say thank you so much for that experience on several levels. It was magnificent, and I feel like it's so relevant to the culture right now, coming back up, and I feel like the culture can sustain the blowing the top off. I think it's just so perfect, so thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for saying that, because I realized that my goal was to have deeper, this film was to kind of inspire deeper conversations. So we're independently distributing this and so we rely on you all, word of mouth, and how to have these group conversations, and see it together. There's something beautifully ritualistic about a theater and being together, and then I know we're limited tonight, but trying to figure out how to have these group discussions and feed each other.
Well, I'd be open to hosting something because I host events.
Oh, great! Hey, give us your number.
So we made the movie, but now it's yours. So please, it's important to have a conversation. We have a guest here, Are You Sirius, who's a local person in the community, and we brought in the movie from Santa Fe, New Mexico, but it's yours now. And as my friend Dennis Hopper used to say all the time, see a movie, be a movie. So you're the movie. So take it forward, please.
Yes, I'm back.
What would you like to see for the future of death?
The question is, what would you like to see for the future of death?
Who would you like to answer that? Who would you like to answer that?
Whoever you think will die first.
You never know. Well, one thing about the paradigm of death and dying in America, especially, I don't want to misquote the statistic, but it's somewhere around 70 to 80% of all healthcare costs in America are all end-of-life oriented, are all going towards that last week. And I think we all know, especially anybody who lives in San Francisco, in a good progressive town like this, but what's happening with healthcare in America. It's a very hot button issue, and now we're starting to all live longer and healthier, and that's a wonderful thing, and it's great, but it's also, something's gonna have to give here, and just from an economic standpoint. And one great way to sort of change that is to embrace the death and dying process and to treat it with a little bit more dignity. And so, it's not really an apples to apples comparison, but I spent time in India, and still to this day, when you're going to die and you're going to die, you go to Varanasi and you get your body burned, because that's just, it's your Mahasamadhi, it's your transition. So this whole concept, and Timothy was really a pioneer in that. Obviously Ramdas is too, but Timothy was really a pioneer in that by leading by example. And actually the last book that he co-wrote with Are You Sirius about the death and dying process really examines that in great detail. And with the buttons that we have going around, dying is perfectly safe. So it just really, it's the one thing we all have in common, and it's a great message to take away from this film.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to well, I just wanted to add that, their work with the psychedelic experience based on the Tibetan Book of the Dead was really important. And I read the Tibetan Book of the Dead when I was young, because I lost my brother when I was 17, which really brought me to my knees. Another death sense, but it's also very selfish. I made this film so that the baby boomers could help change the paradigm, because you guys have the numbers and the consciousness, and we can't keep doing this to ourselves. Other cultures are not like this, and we have the power to change, and it is happening. But we really got to speak up, and it's not just for me about the death at the end of this mortal body. It's really about all the deaths that we need to go through with our ego to have a fuller life. So that's my answer.
It's also valuable to remember that Timothy Leary is into living as long as humanly possible in the flesh, and in fact at one time stated his intention death of the son, I think it was. So he was very interested in radical life extension, and there are things going on. The FDA has just approved the first test of a drug specifically for life extension, which it has to be understood that life extension is health extension. It's not just, becoming more and more decrepit and living very long. And I think one of the interesting dichotomies between Ram Dass and Timothy Leary is the whole question of embodiment. And I remember we were doing the magazine High Frontiers, which preceded Mondo 2000, and we had an interview with Ram Dass, and he said, death is like taking off a shoe that's on too tight. And that always stuck with me. But then at the same time, I think maybe life for Timothy Leary was never on too tight. And he was always loose enough. So, let's just keep the game going as long as possible.
Yeah, but it's an interesting thing specifically relating to Ram Dass, as he talks about today, when he talks about his stroke and what happened during that time, the moment he had his stroke and he just was sitting there on the ground, thinking he was going to die. He says himself, I failed the test. He for the guy who was really on the forefront of death and dying, there he was at the moment, right there on the precipice. Oh my God, what's going to happen here? He failed the test. He freaked out. So he didn't, so it takes work.
And I have to say, watching his life since then, the arc and beauty and expansion of his wisdom and heart since then, huge. He thought he was done. There was something I cut out of the film, since you're here, I'll tell you. He said in '96, before his stroke, I feel like what they call a living dead in India. You've died to life because you're done. And of course, then he realized he had a long way to go still. So I just adore the man. I don't know how to hear the model.
Please.
Thank you for your great, wonderful film. Speaking of the FDA, I was wondering if there's anybody re-pioneering research in psychedelics as far as bringing them back legally for pharmacology and research, and especially as far as these two geniuses brought out the fact of how it aids in the dying process, if not in the process of our everyday living. So I was wondering if there was any re-pioneering to bring Leary's deep appreciation for these substances back into legal pharmacological use.
Thank you for that question.
So who are the new pioneers
Yeah.
in psychedelics today?
I volunteer.
How many volunteer? So, first of all, MAPS, Multidisciplinary Association of Psychedelic Studies, is a wonderful group. And then read Michael Pollan, who's from here. His article in the New Yorker really is a great summary of all the current research and who's doing it. There's actually a couple scientists we're going to see tomorrow in Berkeley. Roland Griffiths is on the East Coast. There's John Hopkins. There's some studies going on at University of New Mexico with addiction to alcohol. There's a lot of work with addiction as well as end-of-life, cancer, existential anxiety over death. There's, anyway, Michael Pollan's, it's called The Trip Treatment, thank you. The New Yorker, really, really good summary of who's doing what, and maps.org. Yeah.
Also, this coming Thursday here at the Roxie, there's a young man by the name of Theo Bardacci. Tuesday, my mistake. We're going to try to have Tuesday conversations at the Roxie, even if we're not around as filmmakers. We're going to sort of turn it over to the community and let people come in and talk and give them a platform. And the young man who's coming in, Theo Bardacci, is a student at CIIS, and he's a student of Stan Groff's. He's coming in Thursday here. Tuesday, why do I keep saying that? Must be tripping. Tuesday, and you could check that out. Also, somebody told me the other day that the FDA had recently approved, in the initial stages of approving the use of psilocybin in treatment of PTSD for veterans.
Yeah, government funded.
We have time
Did you
for
know
one
that the
more.
government spent like $4 million between 57 and 7, or 53 and 77? And that was not military. That was real research way, back then for 20 years. $4 million, or maybe it was more than that, anyway. So, you know, things really did get shut down, but it is opening up again.
I just want to say really quickly that in the last 10 or 15 years, almost like every week, there's an article in some major newspaper or magazine or website saying, wow, these psychedelics are actually medicines that might be good for you. And I mean, you know, every month there's one, and every time, you know, the readers are supposed to be shocked and amazed, and the writers are shocked and amazed, and it's like, who knew? Who thought it? Who?
The government statistic, okay, of people that have taken LSD, it's 28 million people in this country. That is a lot of people.
We have a book to give away.
We do. Oh.
Because we're getting down to it here.
Who's going to do this part? You? No, Alex.
No, I'm the least likely.
Here's Alex. Yay, Alex.
Here's Alex. We have a very special book to give away. Be Here Now. It's signed by Ramdas inside.
So how many people would like one?
Everyone wants one. So see the movie and be the movie. So we want to take a little bit of the love and the experience in the film and in the theater and take it to our social networks. So if y'all can go home and tweet or write a little review on Facebook of your experience on the film and hashtag Think For Yourself with FOR, Think For Yourself, we will look at those and send one of you a book. So that'll do it. We'll have a lottery around it, yeah.
And, so do that, and I'd like to personally thank the Roxie and Rick and your local independent theater. These are treasures of your community and must be supported. And here's a tip: if you want to get the Liddy Leary Alan Rudolph film, it's called Return Engagement. It's a lost movie.
Okay.
Go for it.
Thank you for that. So the film is showing in Berkeley. It's showing in San Rafael. If you enjoyed your evening, tell your friends.